Let me demonstrate to you. How many of you have ever seen an ad of a burger or a pizza on a television or in a movie hall? Right? You've seen it, right? How does the ad come? Think about it. The ad comes, they first show the lower part of the bun falling. Tabak, tabak, tabak. Then on that there's a cheese patty or an aloo tikki that falls. Tabak, tabak, tabak. With some steam coming on it telling you it's hot. Then there is a leaf of lettuce with water droplets on it that drops. Then there are 2 slices of tomatoes freshly cut. And you can see the droplets of water on that. Then somebody squeezes white mayonnaise on it which is dripping on the side. Then the other top portion of the bun comes. Then somebody's hand comes and presses the burger, squish, and the mayonnaise is coming out of the... And what happens? You start salivating. Yes or no? Why are you salivating? It's not real. The logical part of your brain is telling you it's not real, it's in the screen, you dummy. But the Broca's region, the limbic system says, shut up, I'm going to make the body behave as if it's real. That's the impact of psychology on physiology. Another example, how many of you have seen a movie with a high-speed car chase? Fast and Furious or something, right? You're sitting at home, apne recliner mein, sofa mein, aram se, large screen television, you're watching this movie, high-speed car chase, and you're sitting very comfortably. Suddenly the car is going and, high-speed car chase, and it swerves left and right, and it swerves left, and you go... How many of you have experienced that? Why? You're not sitting in the car, but stories are immersive. In the morning, somebody said that I felt I was in your story. And therefore, when you watch a story, you feel you're sitting in the car. It becomes real. What is not real, stories make it real. That makes sense? For example, one of my clients in Mumbai, in Bangalore, and mobile app development company. I was doing the same training for their group of business development manager. One of the managers there is Victor. And after he went through the training, he had to practice, like all of you will be practicing again right now. He said, Gatik, I want to use the just imagine pattern. I said, okay, let's talk. What is your context? Jaise main aap logon se baat kar raha hu. He said, my context is that next week I have to make a presentation to a travel company. And I want to pitch to the travel company to give us the order to develop a mobile app for them, which will make their business better. He's presenting to the travel company senior leadership team. He said, good morning, everyone. Just imagine, one of your customers, Peter, has booked a flight from Delhi to New York, which is 10 days away. Just imagine, 10 days before, which is today, Peter wakes up to the alarm going off on his iPhone. And as he wakes up, picks up the phone to switch off the alarm, integrated with the alarm app is a small notification by us, which is asking him a simple question. Peter, do you want the pickup from your home or from your office after 10 days to the airport? Now just imagine, it's 5 days down and he has 5 more days to board the flight and Peter's in office. Just imagine he's very busy running from one meeting to another and he leaves one meeting and he looks at his iPhone, he looks at his phone to the calendar to see which room the next meeting is in, and as he opens this calendar, integrated with the calendar app, there's a small pop-up that comes up reminding him that he needs to buy a new brown color belt before he travels. Because our systems have taken care of that. Now just imagine it's the day of the flight and Peter reaches the airport on time, and even before he can step out of the car, there's a professionally dressed escort from our office waiting there, greets Peter by his name, because thanks to our facial recognition software, escorts Peter right through boarding and security right into the plane, and Peter has a brilliant, beautiful, wonderful experience. Just imagine if we could make this a reality for all your customers. My name is Victor, I represent ABC Company, and over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to tell you how we can make this real for all your customers. Interesting? That's called a just imagine pattern. You're painting a vision of the future, picking up 2-3 things that are crucial to the customer. When I asked him later, why did you talk about the belt? He said, because in my brief with the client, they said, we just don't want an app development company. We want an app development company to do something because our objective is we want to position ourselves as a travel company that cares beyond your bookings. Now, what's a springboard story? So first of all, a springboard story is the most commonly used pattern of storytelling and the easiest pattern to master. And works in many situations, especially in situations where you have to influence. So springboard stories are great to influence, if you want to make a note of that. Springboard stories are brilliant to influence. Okay? Now what's a springboard? The name also is called sparking action. You want to spark action in people. You want to inspire, you want to influence. Have you seen a spring? Right? What does a spring do? A spring goes down to push you up. A springboard story is like that. Please look at me. A springboard story goes in the past to change your future. It banks on something that's happened in the past to convince you about the future. That makes sense? So it's always a story about a past success by somebody, through which you're trying to influence somebody about the current state. That makes sense? So reminding you Pradeep's story. Pradeep's story was, I have an 11-year-old daughter. And my daughter, a few years back in school, so you're going springboard. Okay, a few years back in school, she was struggling with subject to pick up. She picked up French. We weren't sure, blah, blah, blah. We were a little skeptical. I downloaded apps. I did this. I did that. I learned. I coached her. I taught her. Noida, Delhi. I used to do that. She went for the Olympiad. She cleared it. She only cleared. Now I'm coming to my key message. She cleared it because we were able to help her in an area that was new to us. Past se present mein aa gaya. And today, Mr. Sultan, we are in a similar situation. I see us in a similar situation and we can help you in this current situation. Story finished. So you can share 4 types of stories in any situation. You can share a story about yourself where you are the key protagonist. So the story is told from your point of view. Experience sharing self is where I'm sharing a story about myself, putting myself as the central character. But sometimes in some situations, I don't want to tell a story where I'm the central character. I want to rely on somebody else to tell the story, on somebody else's point of view. So I tell a story of an other. Who's an other? An other is somebody that I know, but you don't know. So for example, if I was to talk to you about a great example of how you tell somebody what's your USP, I may tell you the story of my friend Prajakta. So Prajakta was a PR professional. She was struggling. And I won't tell you that story right now, but if I use that moment, if I say, 6 years back, my friend Prajakta decided to venture into this firm and she started this, she went to this challenge, then she did this. That's an experience sharing other. I've seen Prajakta's journey, you don't know her, but I know her. And the third one is experience sharing outsider. Who's an outsider? An outsider is somebody you and I know of, but we don't know personally. Sorry? Akbar, Birbal, or if I want to influence you to innovate, I may tell you the story of Steve Jobs. Not Akbar, Birbal yet, but Steve Jobs. So outsiders are real people with real incidents. So outsiders are people you and I know of, but we don't know personally. So I tell you the story of Michael Dell, right? I tell you the story of Ratan Tata from their lens. That's experience sharing outsider. And now breaking the rule, I said that stories are real specific incidents, but there's a fourth style of stories that you can also use, which are called parables or fables, which are not real. Akbar Birbal, the girl walking on the street, the log of wood. Correct? The most famous hare and tortoise story. These are what? These are parables and fables, stories with a moral. You can use those as well, okay? But here's the difference. As you move from up to down, the emotional appeal may reduce because the authenticity of the experience will dilute. That makes sense? Which means when you're sharing a story of self, there's greater authenticity, greater emotional connect. Outsider, thoda kam, other thoda kam, outsider or kam, parable thoda or kam. But sometimes it's better to share stories from an outside or other perspective. For example, when I shared with Jay, you remember the Walt Disney story that I shared with Jay about second chances, right? Which one of these was it? Outsider. I was telling him from his lens. Why did I not share a story of self?
Because your situation was such that you had to tell him that basically you wanted a second chance. So
Correct.
It's more, this would be pompous, but then it's not also.
He might have also
Because your credibility was in question.
Brilliant. Can you say that again?
Your credibility was in question.
My credibility is already in question. My credibility is already in question. Why would I want to share my story when somebody doesn't find me credible? I want to bank on somebody whose credibility is much higher in his eyes. Is that making sense to you? So you got to strike the balance. You got to figure it out. Sometimes I'm also a coach, and in coaching, we are forbidden to coach people with our life stories. That's one of the competencies that we follow. You can't coach with your own life stories. Because when you do that, you're mentoring. You're telling. And also another reason, sometimes as leaders, if you only tell people your stories. So Neeraj ko main ownership apna batata. Yeah, Neeraj, I understand what you're going through, but let me tell you, 15 years back when I was your age, sorry, 15 years back when I was struggling with a particular situation, मेरे साथ ऐसा हुआ मैं फिर मैंने ये सीखा. Neeraj कहेगा good, thanks boss. Next time something else happens, I make him sit down. I said, yeah, मैं समझा. 7 years back, what happened to me was this. He said, good. But if I only keep sharing my stories when giving feedback, after a point of time, I'll start sounding like somebody's father who said कि तुम्हारे ज़माने में हम street light के नीचे बैठ के पढ़ा करते थे. So it may end up sounding preachy. So you may want to bank on somebody else's experience to tell that story. So the context helps you decide that.
What experienced over the last few years, that how many times has this happened that people start taking storytelling as a way to move around the main topic or to avoid data or to avoid talking numbers?
Yeah.
कहानी में बात करते थे.
Yeah.
So has that happened?
That actually is the reason why we need to learn storytelling. I think that happens all the time. I think that happens around me all the time because what you're talking about storytelling is actually not storytelling. That's हवा में पतंग उड़ाना. और जो हम कर रहे हैं is not हवा में पतंग उड़ाना. What we're doing is that we're getting people motivated and inspired to want to listen to us. That's what we're doing. But some people do हवा में पतंग उड़ाना, वो justify करते हैं, वो बात घुमाते हैं, वो avoid करते हैं. That's not storytelling. I don't know what that is, but that's certainly not storytelling. But that's what unfortunately people term as storytelling, which is why I said never start a story by saying let me tell you a story, because when you say let me tell you a story, the listener may have exactly that perspective कि अब ये घुमाएगा, अब ये data avoid करेगा. But if you look at what you did, you're not doing any of that. You will get into your data. You are doing number 3. It is crucial. You will get to that. But you're doing it in a way that the person is influenced to receive that. Because at the end of the day, it's not whether your product or your solution is good or not, it's about how it's perceived. As simple as that. A product or a solution is only as good as it's perceived. And you're increasing the perceived value of your product or your solution by using this approach. It is positioning, of course it is. Of course it is. Does that answer your question, Khan? So I see it all the time. I see it all the time. I sit through presentations sometimes that are part of my diagnostics. I see people beating around the bush. So that's beating around the bush. Right? That's talking irrelevant stuff. That's going here and there without coming to any point. But here you have a key point. You are coming to a point. And the point is very relevant to the audience. I'm repeatedly telling you that make your point relevant to the audience. इससे ज़्यादा relevant क्या करोगे आप? And your point is going down deeper into your data and your facts and your numbers. So you're being absolutely true and authentic in your storytelling.